Welcome, everyone, to episode 133 of Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jared Hornbeck, coming to you, of course, from Brooklyn, New York. Now, because this is a special break from format episode, I don't have a witty introduction this time. It just didn't feel right. But I know my faithful co-host is here. Who's here with me?
Well, it's me, Steve Guntley, and I'm sorry I am also witless, but I'm still very excited because we have a super cool bonus episode here for you today. We get to talk to an actress who we have seen probably dozens of your movies at this point, and that is not even scratching the surface of your IMDb. Truly one of the more prolific actors of our time. Who's joining us today, Jared?
Yes. Well, as Steve alluded to, this is an actress, model, all around awesome person that you've seen in Romeo and Juliet, American Nightmare, Color from the Dark, and a number of full moon movies that we have already covered on the show.
Yeah.
Debbie Rochon, B movie, genre movie luminary. So excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I feel like it's a full moon tonight.
Ooh.
Arupa.
It's so cool to have you here. It really is amazing. You were like Romeo and Juliet was actually a really crucial part of my kind of like underground movie sort of education. Like I started seeking out, like I rented that one on a whim from my local Hollywood video when I was younger, and I'm just like, this movie is absolutely wild. It is so unhinged, but it is sort of beautiful and kind of wonderful at the same time. And it's like, it's kind of an insane high wire act, that movie, and you were such a big part of it, and you were so good in that movie. So it's so exciting to have you here.
Well, thank you. And I think that movie spoke to a lot of people in the sense that, okay, we can make movies. We can also make movies that, expand the mind. We could do things that are unexpected and kind of, I wouldn't say freak people out, but wake them up, if you will. And
yeah,
I think it's got that, punk rock edge, yes, but also just a certain something that appeals, especially to young people or young filmmakers. So yeah, I think it created a lot of filmmakers. I'm hoping, anyway.
Certainly did. I mean, yeah,
it really did. I mean, I was a teenager, when Romeo and Juliet came out. And then I remember seeing that. A buddy of mine we were very into looking for the kind of most batshit crazy cult movie looking thing we could find in the video store. And so we came across that. And I didn't really have at the time the brand recognition of Troma. I mean, I'd seen stuff that they distributed or put out, but Romeo and Juliet was kind of one of the first ones where it was like, made me take notice of the studio. And, whatever my first thoughts of like, oh, wow, this is like a pretty DIY kind of, as you said, punk rock studio. My next, I think, the thing that I was subjected to was Terra Firma. And it just cemented like, oh, yeah, wow, this is getting even crazier.
Yes. And it continued on that path. And I believe that, the sort of 70s, 80s trauma was, I do not want to say done, because it was not. However, this movie kind of kicked the studio's status up just in putting it on the map again, because it had been on the map with, Toxie, of course, but I think it really did do a nice thing for it. Like, it really sort of another resurgence for another generation.
We talk about, Full Moon, obviously, for the purpose of our show, but we're both also big Troma fans, and we obviously, like, Full Moon and Troma are running on these like parallel tracks in this really interesting way. And it's always interesting to see how that's happening, because like around this time, like you said, like 2000, something like that, when Romeo and Juliet came out, that's kind of a Kickstarter for Troma. Like, that's when I became aware of it. That's when a lot of my friends became aware of it again, and they start putting out more movies, and it seems to be kind of kicking into gear. Whereas Full Moon at the same time is kind of having the inverse problem, like their budgets are getting lower. They're having a harder time finding funding for different things. And it seems like it was kind of a nice boon for them, for the studio, that they kind of got you in this sort of down period. You know, you came in and kind of classed up the joint a little bit for 4 movies in a row, like all within about the span of a year, maybe 2.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'll tell you, yeah, things were kind of tough from what I know, and I'm not an insider at Full Moon, but things were in a rough period. And so the budgets went from, again, you speak to somebody who knows exact numbers. However, I believe between $100,000-$200,000 a film. Certainly, if Mr. Band is making them, they would be in that range or more.
Often way less. Yeah.
Yeah. And these came along, and these were movies that were made for 35, 40, 45,000. And that's kind of what was needed at the time. So they, of course, Charles Band tapped Joe Bookwalter, who was working for him at the time anyway, and he knew that he was a DIY type of filmmaker. And so the sub genre, Shadow Entertainment, the sub company, sub is a negative word, but it's a good thing when you're looking for like an influx of some money, something to show the people. So each one of those has a very funny story to it.
Absolutely.
But we came in and we just like nailed it, banged it out, had a lot of fun and did our best, and it was grand. It really was. It was fun. And it was fun to sort of like bounce from, the Troma world to the Full Moon world. And I kind of brought along, if you will, Lloyd. He was in his first, possibly only, I don't know, but Full Moon movie. He was the dad in Bleed.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so cool to see, like I lost my train of thought entirely. Excuse me. Go ahead and skip.
That's okay.
Oh my God, it just like left my brain. I hate that happened.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yes. Oh yeah, but I mean, no, you have, according to IMDb, and obviously that is the gospel truth, and everything on IMDb is 1000% correct. But according to that, you have about 319 film credits. And we're asking you to talk about like 4 of them that are kind of in this very specific studio. I'm just curious, like when you have that many projects under your belt, like do they start to kind of blend together, or do you have any distinct memories from like working with the studio at this time?
Oh, I have very distinct. I was going to say instinct. I also had instinct.
You have very instinct.
But memories, I have distinct memories. Absolutely, I do. Some movies, yes, but the reason that will happen more likely is if you only spend a day on something, and then it could kind of blend in, because it wasn't like, the whole impression. But I have very, very specific recollections. The first one I did was Witch House 3. Sorry, Witch House 3. And that was a really interesting experience because we shot that in one location. There was some exteriors on the beach and stuff, but it was a really solid script. Yeah. It really was.
That was JR. JR wrote that one as well, or did I think I know he directed it. Yeah, I believe he worked on both.
Oh, he directed it. Matthew Jason Walsh, I believe.
That's it. Yeah.
He, very, very good writer. Very good writer. And so brought together a whole bunch of ladies and one location. It's the old adage, keep it super simple. And it was a really good time. Up until then, I just, conversed with JR perhaps in, at conventions or, read each other's stuff in magazines. It was obviously weren't working with any intense, I should say, internet. Of course it was there, but still, yeah, so that was a really good experience and a very intense one because the emotions were really deep. The Killjoy 2
Mm-hmm.
movie was pretty fun because the all the actors I were working with were fantastic. The sad thing was on the, I want to say the second day of shooting, that's when, I hope I pronounce her name right. I'm so bad at this sometimes, but Alea, the one who passed in the plane crash.
Aaliyah, yeah,
Aaliyah,
absolutely,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it hit everybody really hard because she was a really big, important figure in that moment. And it
Yeah.
happened like right when we were shooting. But the actors in that movie were great. I mean, I think the movie is fun, cheesy. It's probably like the cheesiest. And in that movie, the memorable part is bringing Trent Haga on board, who was, of
That's
course,
right.
in Terra Firma, Citizen Toxie. Him and his wife had moved out to LA, and I just poor JR, because at this point I'd already done a movie with him, and I was like, JR, listen, this guy is crazy talented. You have to do something. And he's like, I got it all, crewed up. Like, there's nothing I could do. And I said, just think about it, please. Just think about it. Think about it. And so I was just kind of hounding him, and he acquiesced. But it was a beautiful thing because Trent came on and played the role of Killjoy, and then did it like how many more times after that?
Yeah.
He's still doing it. So that's you helped kind of get him that recurring gig. That's really cool.
That was that, and he got to go to Asia.
Mhm.
All this great stuff, and he got to have a movie that he wrote was filmed. I forget which one that was, but he got to we did Dead and Rotting together. We were both in that one, another full
Yeah.
moon movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't in Bleed. Those were the 4. But you try to do that, for friends, and you try to
Yeah.
bring people in when you can. And I was always such a big fan of Full Moon and Charles Band's movies, that it was like such an honor just to be able to, even if we were down there in the trenches and we were just kind of there as a way for him, the company, to sort of paddle through that time to get back to their glory, as
Mhm.
every company goes through, just to be able to be in any way, shape, or form was such a joy for me.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was just looking, and I when you said it, I was like, "There's something that we covered that Trent wrote, and it was Hell Asylum that he
Yes.
wrote
Yes.
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
same time."
Yeah.
But also, he also wrote Citizen Toxie.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
Yes,
Oh
he was
wow,
one
yeah.
of the writers. Yes, he was one of the writers on that. Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah. Uh-huh.
This is
But
finally
yeah,
my
he got
cue to like I've only seen the first Toxic Avenger at this point, and I was rewatching it this week, and I like because I'm excited for the new kind of reboot that's coming out. It looks really cool, and now I'm like I got to run this series. I got to run all through Citizen Toxie. I have not caught those. This will be
Citizen
fast.
Toxie is for me like the meter of like trauma craziness of where they were going during that period. It's like Tromeo and Juliet is the patient zero sort of that
Okay,
era of trauma, and then like I think they ramp it up a little bit in Terra Firma, and they really ramp it up in Citizen Toxie. Citizen
awesome.
Toxie is crazy.
Okay, I love it. I love it. All right, I got to check this out.
that is true. That is true. Yeah, it was wild, and that was a pretty crazy shoot too. But yeah, no, I just have to say it was every single movie of the 4 for Full Moon were very unique, and there were very different experiences. I remember when we were shooting Bleed, the first script, it was originally called Make 'em Bleed.
Hmm.
And there was going to be one director. In the end, there ended up to be two directors.
Right.
So the writer, Devin, was going to direct, I believe, solo in the beginning, but it turned out to have two directors. But I'll never forget, because it was one of those strange moments. And this is not, it sounds like I'm being sort of an asshole wannabe method actor, even though, I do have methods to my madness.
Absolutely.
But I'll never forget that, you're getting so much done in any given day. And so when my character was walking down the hallway, it was at full moon at the time, and there was so many walks down the hallways that took place over the whole movie. And I would say to, not Devin, because he wrote it, but the other director, I was like, oh, okay, this is like the sixth clothing change walk. What's going on for me? And I'll never forget, because it does, as you know, it does matter. But I'll never forget that he said to me, just walk down the hall. Like, just what are you even caring? What are you caring? What's going on? But she has a mental breakdown. You know what I mean? Like during the movie, supposed to anyway. And so I'm like, oh wow, okay. I'm certainly not gonna say anything and disrespect the director. But in my mind, I'm like, oh my God. It does.
You got to channel that
No,
energy.
I agree. It does.
Forgetting why you went into a room.
Yeah. So there you go. I haven't said that out loud since it happened. So we got the breaking insight right there. But yeah, that was, and that movie, Devin had me in mind for, I forget the character's name. I think it was played by Orlin Tepper or something like that. She's the lady throwing the party by the pool. That's all you have to know. If you've seen the movie Bleed, then kind of know. And she's, flirting with my boyfriend. I go a little weird. But he had me in mind for that role. When I read the script, I said, and it wasn't about it being a lead or anything like that. I said, I just relate to this character. And I said, it would kind of be like an, the other one would be an for me role. But I just know exactly what's making her tick. Just one of those times you read a script and it just sings to that certain part of your soul. And so I told him, I said, have to. So if you want me in it, then, and that's certainly not a threat. I just said, this is what I would like to do, And so he went away and he came back and he agreed. And I was lucky because it was a far better part for me emotionally.
Yeah.
I thought.
You're really locked in that movie too. Yeah. I think that's the right choice. Like when we covered that one, it's like, yeah, they're obviously working with, a craft services budget for an entire feature film, but it's a clever script. It's clearly kind of like drafting off the Scream phenomenon. It's one of the rare slasher movies that Full Moon has ever done, like maybe the only one. Yeah. And I mean,
that was our biggest thing when we watched it for the show together. We were just like, oh man, this feels so weird because it's a person killing people and not a little tiny terror. It's not a little goblin or a doll. Or, it's actually a person.
And it's not just on that spiral. Yeah, we were like, wait, how many Full Moon movies have a person killing a person? And there's almost none. Yeah, Bleed is kind of
one of them.
Most. Yeah, it was something that had not even occurred to us until we watched that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have remembered this on my own, but the other character's name was Tilly, and Tilly. I think you did I think it was smart, Debbie, for you to say, like, oh, I definitely relate more to the Maddie character because, in that movie, I think you just get a lot more fun stuff to do. Also, like, I just think I could see why that role would be more appealing.
Right. I didn't feel like it was, out of my world to do. I didn't think it was like a huge, massive experiment, at the cost of the movie. And I so rarely and probably should do more of that in my real life, in my career, in the film stuff. But that was one time I just knew. I just knew. And it had what was it? Alan Neighbor's nephew. Jim Neighbors. Sorry, Jim Neighbors.
Oh, Jim Neighbors' nephew. Oh, is that who
yes,
that
that's
was?
right.
Oh,
it
wow.
was. Yeah. I think we made a joke about that,
crazy
and
guy
somebody
that
in like a
puts me in the
comment was
trunk.
like, "No, it is."
It is, but really, Jim Neighbors was his uncle.
Wow.
That's why. Maybe his name is Alan. Isn't that terrible that I forgot?
His name is Alan.
I think it is.
You had his name right. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. But so that was that. I thought that was pretty funny in a good way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so yeah, the full moon period that you were working with, that was only just kind of like a little brief, like almost a blip in your career. I'm curious if we can kind of go back a little bit. How did you sort of break into the industry like this? Like how did you get to where you are at this point?
Well, I really just doing 3 months of extra work on a movie and it being such an important experience for me that I moved to New York and just studied. I belonged to like maybe 6 or 7 theater companies, studied at a lot of different schools, just really ate quite literally, though. Really, this isn't a funny line, like a can of beans or half a can of beans a day. I mean, whatever it took. I just took as many classes as I could. The theater work, I must have done over 100 student films for NYU and Columbia University film students.
Oh, wow.
All that stuff, like just really completely immersed, because I knew it was going to take me a lot to really get it, like to really get there. And I don't even think I did until about 98, 99. Like it took me quite a while to really fully come into my own, because I had like such fantastically strong built walls to protect me emotionally going through what I did. So it was just such a process to break all of that down and have access to that. It took a very long time. Some people are born with it.
Oh, sorry.
And I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, they're a better actor at 10 years old than I was at 30. What the hell?
Isn't that crazy?
What the hell?
Yeah. Isn't that always like,
yeah, I think I carry that envy with me in just about anything I do. It's like always, they say like competition is the thief of joy. And I think that's very true. Yeah. I know in the early 90s, you started to get involved in some genre stuff. And I know you were in a movie called Abducted 2 in 1995, which is something that I feel like you were kind of known for. And was that around the same time that you kind of got hooked up with like Joe Bob and like Dee Snider? I know you collaborated on some different stuff at that time.
Briggs. Yeah, with Joe Bob Briggs, yes. I wrote for his zine magazine. It was originally called We Are the Weird, based on We Are the World, that song that all the pop singers did to raise money. But he did We Are the Weird, but he got in legal trouble, so he just switched it to the Joe Bob Report. So I had a column for a couple of years in that publication that he put out, and then it ended. He stopped publication. And so, I was working with him for a while. Dee Snider, that wasn't until 2006.
Oh, okay. So I have some of my facts a little. I had a feeling it was Fangoria related also, and I thought it was happening.
I can't keep it all straight. So
that's fair. It's funny because I
So
introduced you and I kind of fumbled through my introduction trying to remember what I wanted to put in my multi-hyphenate description. And I glossed over the fact that you were a writer also for these columns. And so is
Mm.
that something you always did also, or was that something that stemmed from just experiences that you had in the early days of breaking into the industry, or did you always just like to write also?
well, I did as a teen, just for myself. Like I wrote thoughts down, but I did go back to them and make myself chuckle. I don't know if that's good or bad to be so self-involved that you actually have a reaction to your own writing. But I would think to myself, wow, I didn't even graduate high school, and that's pretty good. That's pretty funny. So I was always interested in it and liked to do it. And then in the early 90s is when I started to do it and get published, which is really awesome. I had to write a lot of stuff before that happened, but I eventually did. And I've been doing it pretty much ever since. I mean, had my own column with Joe Bob, and then a few different magazines along the way. And then more recently, Fangoria for maybe 5, 6 years with them until they changed hands. And now my column is in Videoscope magazine. The
Cool.
Rochon report. It's come full circle. It's not the Joe Bob report. It's the Rochon report.
And it's got a
Yeah, that's.
snappy name.
I was gonna
So
say that's better branding
Snappy.
already. Yeah, that should have always been the
Yeah.
case. Yeah, you need that alliteration. Come
Uh-huh.
on.
I like the idea that Joe Bob didn't have like a plan B name. Like it was just like, we're going to call it We Are the Weird. And then the government is like, no, you're not. And he was like, okay, fine. Joe Bob Briggs report. Like,
And there you go. There you go. So yeah, the binders, because when you collected such a thing back then, people would sell you the binders. Like if you were buying a publication, you could always buy a binder from them. So I
Hmm.
got a binder from him, and yeah, it says "We Are the Weird" on the binder, and it's a good thing because I would forget, because it was such a blip in time that he called it that until they were like, no, no.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
I
right?
I have to ask this. I don't know how much of a story there is behind it, but I would be doing myself, maybe Steve, presumably our listeners, a disservice if I didn't. Based on just the things that we often bring up, like there's certain properties and things that we reference time and time again. We talked about our adventures in the video store as kids, being video store kids, loving, looking at horror movie cover art and all of that stuff. One really formative thing for many people of a certain age was a little program called USA Up All Night.
Hmm.
And you appeared as in an episode of that as a nurse. And so I just want to know anything that you're willing to divulge about your experience in one episode of USA Up All Night, because that is just a program that makes me feel very nostalgic and very warm and fuzzy, because it was the way that I was as a young kid introduced to, heavily edited, mind you,
Right.
R-rated movies that I would come to then seek out after.
Okay, so two parts to that. One is I was not doing the skit live with them. What was happening was they were doing both Gilbert Gottfried and Rhonda Shear
Mm.
were doing their, and I believe it was the only one they ever did, their B- awards. So they were doing that live in California. And so
Hmm.
us being East Coast people, when Lloyd and Michael Hers at Trauma had like a video feed, if you will, even though it was pre-recorded, played off like a video feed, live video feed. I was in, the three of us were in a skit that we did for that awards show that was piped in for that live audience. So I was in that. That's what that particular episode was. The only other times I have an association with that classic, amazing show, I loved it so much, was when Abducted 2, the reunion, was on it. And it was on both Rhonda's and Gilbert's show. So I got to see each one of them do skits. You know how they do around the movie for the whole night. And Gilbert's was pretty funny. I mean, Rhonda's always funny and great and hilarious, but Gilbert his was pretty funny, I gotta say. They put him in the trunk of a taxi and pretended to like film around New York from inside the trunk, hosting the show Abducted. So that was, he's a funny guy. So that was pretty good. So my two experiences with Up All Night would be those two.
No, that's great. I saw that in the credit and I said, I have to ask about this. And you talked a little bit about how you were breaking into the industry. And I mean, Lloyd is such a, it's kind of like a, two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways when you talk about Charles Band and Lloyd Kaufman. And what then led you, because I feel like you became very synonymous with that kind of new era of Troma. So what led you then directly to like meeting Lloyd and getting involved with Troma?
So when I first met him, really? So previously I had just finished doing a role on a movie called Party Incorporated, which was Marilyn Chambers' first non-pornographic movie, and directed by Chuck Vincent. And there was a guy on the movie, his name was John Altamura, I believe, last name. He played Toxie in the part 2 and 3 of the Toxic Avenger. And another guy. He was actually replaced, believe it or not.
Oh wow.
But when we were or they had a falling out, I wasn't there. But when we were leaving Queens, we finished the skits in a studio type of situation. And on the subway back to New York, he said, you should get in touch with Troma. They're doing a lot of really fun stuff. And so I thought, oh, okay. So, I sent my headshot and resume to Troma, to no particular name, just like to the building.
Yeah.
Who even knows who got it? Maybe the rats in the basement or in the rats in the attic. It was good, sort of like nesting material once they chewed it up, But in 92, I was writing an article about Troma and went over, and I was living, it's weird because I was living in Hell's Kitchen at the same time, and there are places in Hell's Kitchen. So I went over there and spoke with Lloyd, and he said afterwards, oh, hey, you should come by and we'll do some like photographs. We pick up movies and we shoot new covers, new artwork. And, so we need people to do that. And I said, oh, that sounds like fun. And so that was like some of the first stuff I did, like in 92, 93, then started doing skits for TV, like for Netherlands or Germany. Cable was really coming up at that time. And so they would get all of Troma's library because it was cheap. And they were just starting out the cable channel. And so they would get all the Troma titles. So then they would want skits for in between the movies, little bumpers, if you will. And so I did a lot of those for a lot of different cable places and countries and all that good stuff. And then did stuff like the Troma system for Comedy Central. I think the first name of that channel was Ha.
Yeah, it was the Ha channel. Right? I remember that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For about 2 minutes, it was Ha. And then ultimately, after doing a whole bunch of that kind of stuff, that's when Romeo and Juliet came along.
Yeah. And then
that's incredible.
Shot it in, did we shoot it in 95 or 96? I think it was, I really want to say it was 95.
Yeah.
And then it came out in 97 because Lloyd has never been a fast post-production kind of guy. It's always been like 1 to 2 years for his movies to be done.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say 95 probably sounds about right, because we had a really incredible, fun interview with Tiffany Shepis a while back. And she talked about like how she was in high school when she
Yeah.
auditioned for that.
Mm-hmm.
She's awesome. Yeah, she was great in that movie. She was
Oh,
good
yeah.
in it.
Yeah. No, she's the best. I'm just curious, like, when you look back sort of at your filmography, do you have like a couple of movies that like stand out for you as personal favorites or sentimental favorites? Or
It's there's a few in there for all different reasons on the map. Um, I would definitely say for Full Moon, it's tough because I never think to speak about Dead and Rotting enough, and I really
Right.
should, because I think it's a movie that a lot of people really enjoy. I really do. I think, and again, Trent's in that one. He's in 2 of the 4 movies that I did for Full Moon. But I really like that one. We shot that one in Ohio. But there's just something about when you're completely emotionally invested that it leaves like a different memory kind of on your soul, if you will. So in that case, I would have to say Bleed, because I just really like it was deep, like what I was trying to do or doing. And so then there's that one. There's American Nightmare, also felt the same. I believe it or not, I also felt the same in Abducted 2, although it never came off. It's fun. It's a funny movie, unintentionally so, but it's it's the camp factor sort of overpowered any kind of realism. But Color from the Dark is one that I'm really proud of. Exhumed. There is a few, and that's the serious stuff. Comedy, that's a whole nother thing. Slime City Massacre. There's a whole bunch that I really enjoy, because I love comedy too, comedy horror.
Yeah. Oh, and you get some absolutely incredible movie titles in your repertoire because of the affinity for comedy horror. Like, you get some really amazing stuff. People, if you haven't gone through the IMDb, please take a look, because there's some amazing titles in there. Each one is like better than the last. It's so fun. And I mean, it just seems like it would be such a blast to be on a set like this. You make this kind of, you said punk rock, and it's like there's a very punk rock aesthetic to so much of like what Troma does, and to a lot of what Full Moon does, and like it just kind of fuck it, we'll get some buddies together, we'll make a movie. Like, there's no better time than now, and it's kind of a great
I don't think I've ever shared this anecdote before, but in backing up what you're saying, Steve, a friend of the show, Adam Torkel, texted me one day and just went, "Hey, do you want to be in a Troma movie?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. That sounds super fun." And then like an hour later, he texted me back and he's like, "Okay, I just need you to know though, like you have to do frontal nudity." And I texted him back and I was like,
you and everybody else.
I was like, well, I'm an elementary school teacher. So he's like, yeah, but you'll be wearing a mask. He was trying to describe the setting that they needed another person for this movie for, probably not even a speaking role, just standing there like naked. And ultimately I ended up not doing it, but I thought it was really funny that the kind of candid nature of the like getting a text out of the blue that says, "You want to be in a Troma movie?" Like,
I mean, you could have been the next Felissa Rose's body double from Sleepaway Camp. Like, you missed your opportunity. This was and we all know that guy's name.
It's close. Adam is amazing, by the way. He worked on Model Hunger with me, and oh my God, just to watch him, and he's become a filmmaker, and he's such an amazing force of nature, I like to say. I did not make that up. That's a very overused descriptive phrase, but he really is. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
A
Yeah,
lot of
he's the
people,
best.
like part of the joy of doing a lot of this stuff really is something that not enough people experience, which is putting people together that fit well together, or the project makes them be perfect for each other,
Mhm.
as opposed to just being, wanting to keep people down and gatekeep. And, we'll talk to this person, but not that one, that's half a step down, or however they're thinking, but gatekeeping shit.
Yeah.
And so you meet people like Adam, and there is a number of people, but even on our level where, you could spend an entire career fully enjoying what you do, but it's still underground, so you would think, okay, well, the fame is not to the point where it's crazy, therefore the money's not there, so it can't be as competitive, come on. But you would be surprised some of the behavior you see. So all that to say, Adam rocks. That was a long way to get back there, wasn't it?
Well, it's a point that we really need to drive home if people don't get it. But I'm going to use this opportunity also to say, since this episode will be dropping on the last day of September, Adam wrote and produced a short film that just got submitted to Brooklyn Horror Fest. I co-produced it with him, and so
Amazing.
it will be in the I'm assuming in the horror shorts section of the Brooklyn Horror Fest Film Fest. I don't know yet which day or time or anything like that, because that kind of information isn't out yet. By the time this episode drops, I probably will have a better idea. But we just had the submission, and it's in, and we're very proud of it and can't wait for people to see it.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Congrats to you both. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Gotta get
Love
more of
it.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So cool. Yeah, I mean, I do want to plug, so you mentioned Model Hunger, which is a movie that you also wrote and directed, and I just want to say I hope
Directed.
you just directed. Okay, yes, excuse me. Yeah.
James Morgart wrote it and produced it.
Oh, okay.
Like I did a lot of like tweaking and changing and cutting and all this sort of stuff. Yes, but the whole picture, the vision, if you will, the original vision is definitely James Morgart, 100,000%, and then became mine. But certainly he put in all that work. But anyway, yes, Model Hunger.
I just want to say I hope that whoever wrote the tagline for that movie got a hefty raise, because
that was me.
That was you? You wrote that? The Revenge is a Dish?
3 or 4 great taglines.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Which one are you talking about? Do you remember?
Revenge is a Dish.
Yes.
That was great.
I said revenge is a dish. Obviously, we know why.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so my first one, there was like 3. I still love the most. Size 0 is a bitch.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I saw that one. Size 0 is a bitch, and the poster is
That's
just like a
my
bunch of
favorite one.
Yeah,
they didn't want to
that's
go
really
with
good.
it. They didn't want to go with it. So I said, okay. Just give me a
I just
minute.
saw that, and I'm like, I thought that was so clever. I'm like, I don't know. That's so cool that was your tagline. That's amazing.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? But yeah, you have to understand, to get the time frame right, the early 2000s, late 90s, I wrote for Weekly World News.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I was really, and then I was also producing radio at one of the first internet places. It was called IATA. I also was producing and had a show at Pseudo Radio in New York. So point being, like, I was working with Richard Johnson, who at the time was heading up Page 6 in the Post. And that was like the Bible, because, who had internet, right? I mean, that was if you got your client in Page 6, it was as good as, going viral, because everybody read it in the business.
Sure.
So I became good at punchy things, like quick in and out, punchy. It's a muscle, like anybody who spends a lot of time doing that will get a certain amount of good. So that's why when it came to the taglines, I was like, no, please let me handle this. And it took a little bit, but once you get it, it's like fire, like in your head. You're like, oh. And so when they took away size zero's a bitch, I was like, oh, you're killing me. Killing me. But then, right?
Yeah.
Revenge is a dish.
You still landed on your feet with
part
it.
of revenge is a dish best served cold.
Right.
Is just
Yeah.
taking the end off.
It's great.
And
It's so like
calling Lynn
concise.
Lowry a dish.
I loved
That's
it.
all.
Yeah. I thought that was so clever. I'm like, oh, I'm sold. That's amazing. Yeah.
The passion goes into every bit of it.
That's amazing. That's true. Like when you're working in like low budget movies too, you're often like you're every part. You are the caterer. You are the line producer. You are everything. Yeah.
Yep. Truth.
Oh
No, that's really fun. That's a great poster and a great tagline. I did want to ask about one credit on your IMDb that stands out to me as something that maybe you weren't super involved in, but it's very different from the way the rest of it was shaped up. But that is your very small extra role on Ladies and Gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains, because that movie rules.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's a
Yeah.
movie more people need to see. And when I saw, and so you worked just as an extra on that. Do you remember anything from that shoot?
Oh yeah. That was the movie that I spoke of when I said I was on set for 3 months.
yeah.
And it inspired me to get myself together.
Oh, cool.
And get to New York, because I was, just a homeless teen. And I found my way onto, because somebody told me about the casting call, down to Lynn Carroll's casting place on Denman Street in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Oh, cool.
And so that movie came to town, and I'm telling you, it was crazy. I mean, it had people that even at that time, you may not even know who they all are. Like it has Paul Simonon from The Clash. We have Ray Winston in a very early, he had done some stuff over in the UK, but didn't know him in North America yet, really. You have
Steve Jones.
You have the Fee Waybill from The Tubes. You have like all of these. You have Lou Adler, who made the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, cool.
He directed it, and it was a really, it was a very, very intense and big memory for me. I mean, it really changed my life in a lot of ways. It really did. And that was a long time to spend on something. And so I just thought to myself, wow, if life could be like this and not like that, meaning, trying to find a place to sleep when you're homeless. If this could be life, oh my God, that was the goal. That was the goal. So it's the thing that probably saved my life, to be honest, because God only knows. I doubt I would be alive. I mean, maybe, but who knows? Who knows? So it was really eye-opening. And also, of course, it had Diane Lane. And I remember she was so good in the role. But I do remember her wanting to get away from her mother a lot. I guess she was sort of trying to, in a positive way, keep an eye on her being a young actress. And Laura Dern, what is that called when you get separated from your parents?
Emancipated.
Emancipation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Got emancipated for the movie, but not to be crazy and wild. She was dead serious, but for whatever reason. So that I found that interesting too. And I think it was Maureen Karen was the third girl. I forget her first name, but yeah, it was really amazing. And then I had read something. Diane Lane said many years later that her daughters saw it finally when they were old enough, and said, "Mom, you were actually cool at one time." And so he came to terms with it because it was something that nobody, once they shelved it, and they
Yeah.
shelved it for many years. It took
Yeah.
like a Herculean effort to get it released by a bunch of people that were obsessed with getting it released. Not with Paramount. It wasn't Lou Reed. It wasn't anybody in the movie. It was just these fans, and this one female fan in particular, who was also a filmmaker. Her name was Sarah Jacobson, who died in the early 2000s. But she did a special. I think it was a 2-part special for the IFC channel. And it just to bring awareness, and she interviews everybody and does this big doc. We did and this is including me, because it was on the internet that I was involved, and even did like this spread in Grand Royale, which was a short-lived magazine put out by the Beastie Boys.
Oh, cool.
And it was this sort of epic article. So she placed that. And so she was working overtime. Like, she just was like that. And it was a lot to do with her. And still to this day, it keeps getting released. There was an Australian release of the movie, I want to say about a year and a half ago. And I have like a whole segment extra feature piece on it. That I'm telling all the stories, the detailed stories, and they very cleverly use the footage from the movie and cut together things. But that goes to show, I mean, who am I in the movie? I mean, I'm there. I spent 3 months there, but you can't see me in the movie, like, per se. I have pictures, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here you are as an extra on the Australian release. So that's pretty wild. It's wild how things turn out. And it had another special release. So I think it's finally found its legs.
And
I always love. I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's one of those movies it's one of the movies that's cited as kind of the forebearer of like the Riot Girl punk scene, like that whole kind of thing sort of stemmed from that movie. So it became like this quietly very influential movie for a lot of people. And it seems like just kind of being around that energy was like pretty transformative for you. That sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, truly. And here's just a quick thing that I always found interesting. Prior to the shooting of Ladies and Gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains, Dennis Hopper made his movie Out of the Blue.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like directly before, like just within months of the other one starting. And so what was that, 79, 80? And the lead character was also obsessed with like Johnny Rotten, punk rock. And so there was a lot of interesting parallels, and a couple friends of mine were extras, like street friends, and because they needed all kinds of interesting, crazy characters. I don't even know how we found out about this stuff, but word gets around, and so Out of the Blue, in a really weird way, and seeing it was made so close together with Ladies and Gentlemen, it's almost like this really cool double feature, and all shot in the same location, not literally the same house or anything, but the same small area.
That's awesome. I love hearing stuff like
British
this.
Columbia becoming the North Hollywood. It was only indie films that were like so-called indie films that were being made there.
Yeah. People like Sarah Jacobson, who you alluded to, who push for these things to, to find an audience and get releases. I love hearing stories like that because now you have like Tubi and streaming apps like that, and you can come across like a really obscure movie on Tubi, and then you'll look at it and be like, okay, well, there's a digital version of this that exists, but there's no physical media. or there's no Blu-ray or 4K or special features or documentary shorts or stuff made about it. And a lot of times, unfortunately, once the kind of digital footprint of that is gone, then the memory of that movie will be gone unless it's documented in some way. And so I'm always really impressed by people who put the time and energy into preserving things like that, because there's probably so many great films that people worked on that will just eventually end up being forgotten by everyone because they're not, getting re-releases, and they're not getting people brought back together to be interviewed and all that stuff. So, hearing that people work hard to preserve these things just makes me happy, because I know a lot of things could end up lost.
Well, I could tell you a story that might make you happy. It doesn't have like the same level of talent involved. No offense to people who are involved with it, but Roberta Findlay made a movie, her last movie that she ever made, and it was called Banned, B-A-N-N-E-D. Not Charles Band's autobiopic, but and add another N. Banned. Actually, Charles Band should be. It's already released, but he should have released it.
He should have done it. Yeah.
She never. She took it over to Cannes. She finished it. It was edited, completed, credit roll, you name it, good to go. Took it over to Cannes. No one wanted it. They were like, "What is this? What is this?" Like what she did prior to that had nothing to do with this. It was like a punk rock movie. This guy named Teddy Homicide, he is recording in 1977 in some recording studio and dies in the toilet. And then 10 years later, so long later, 87 or 8, this mellow jazz group comes in to record in the same space, and the guy goes to the bathroom and he gets possessed by Teddy Homicide and slowly becomes him. That's all I'll say about the storyline, but it was a finished movie. Nobody ever wanted to release it, ever. Some of the reels were missing at Duart. They were just left there, never paid for, and in God knows what shape. And I kid you not, at least 15 years. I spoke with the writer. I wanted to see if maybe he wanted to buy it. No. Interesting concept, but wanted to, no, he didn't want it. I found some other people, that might want to release it if this distribution company didn't want to. Media Blasters, because they had the rights to all of Roberta Findlay's movies. They just bought all of them, and that fell under that umbrella. And so I said, I have people who will buy it from you guys. And so I did everything from bring them deals to tell them why they should do it, to just ask them, come on, like, what do we got to do? Years of this, I'm telling you, like almost 2 decades. And it finally came out on Blu-ray about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
It was shot in 1988.
That's crazy.
This is what I'm talking about.
For the first time ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Never sat in front of people's eyes until 2 years ago.
It's
Just
also,
my own
that's incredible.
I couldn't stand that something was completed like that much. Credit roll everything. It was making me crazy. Like, just, you got to really, and it finally got released. I think you could see it for free on Tubi. You could buy the Blu-ray for sure,
but
you could see it on Tubi and give it some love by doing that. I mean, it's not, insane great movie that's going to change your life, but it's a slice of New York City in 1988,
which, I mean, that's really kind of like a lesson for like indie filmmakers everywhere. Like, truly just make your movie. You really don't know what's going to happen with it. You don't know. It might take 35 years for it to finally like come out on video, but like, you never know, and it's always wild, like to find what finds an audience when, and like that's really cool to me. That's the best part about these kind of like low budget films is it gives you a chance to sort of just do that, just put something out into the world, and like we'll see what, you never know. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's super fun.
I don't know if it has yet found its audience, but I truly believe it exists.
Yeah.
I really do. It's so weird. I mean, he gets exercised by a priest with Mr. Plummer. I mean, you gotta see it. I mean, you have to love all kinds of movies if you like the indie stuff, right? The underground, like classics, cult classics. So it's fun. And you can't judge it against some like $5 million movie. Come on, give us a break here,
Yeah.
It's fun. Just fun. That's all.
Well, we have taken up so much of your time, and we could go on forever. So
I know.
I'm gonna let you go here. Thank you so much.
We made it to 1989. Next time we'll go from there. I'm kidding. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for being here. Do you have any projects coming up there, or anything that you'd like to point people's attention to?
Oh yeah, there's a few. I'll try to do it super fast. So Flesh of the Unforgiven and In Betweening are currently streaming. They just hit the streaming waves. Tubi, Amazon Prime. There's some movies that will be releasing in the very near future, like View from the Edge, Slaughter at Camp Swine Lake, Our Man Funk, the next Trauma movie, which could be, but you never know because Lloyd says it a lot, but could be Lloyd's last movie. We'll see. The Power of Positive Murder, but that would be next year, so not that soon. And working on segments of Jonah and a whole bunch of other things. In next month, I go to San Diego to shoot my part in Poultrygeist Part 2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I almost brought Poultrygeist up before too, when I was just sort of rattling off some of the crazier late 90s into early 2000s trauma titles.
That's a classic. Yeah, that one's crazy.
Yes. And this one shall be too. So yeah, always lots of stuff going on. And you could always look at one of the classic websites if you want to, find out. Check out Videoscope magazine. I have a column there. I love Delirium magazine, by the way. The Full Moon magazine. I'm a massive fan. Chris Alexander kills it. Great taste has, beautiful eye. And the podcast, I do a narrative. It doesn't compete with you guys. It's a wonderful narrative about a lot of hauntings and stuff like that called Obscurities. So that's pretty much the long and short of it.
No, there's so much there. And, if you're listening to this, there's so much for you to choose from, to check out. And I know if you're a fan of the show, you probably already know the 4 full moon movies that Debbie was in that she talked about with us during the show. And I know that you're familiar with those. And because you're a fan of the show, you love them. If you love our show and what we do every week, the best way to show us is to go on whatever podcast catcher you're using to listen. And if it has the function for rating and reviewing, then please do so. That just helps more people become aware of the show and helps us build our audience. If you want to keep up with what we're doing on a daily basis, you can follow the show on Instagram at puppetmasters_castlefreaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jared or Steve at Minotaur Matador. We have the audio versions of the show on YouTube, and we also update what the new episodes are on Threads and Blue Sky and our Facebook group. But it's a lot to keep up with, and Steve has another thing that he's always got going on that he wants to plug. So, Steve, what else have you been working on?
Well, I'm also the host of a show called Cinema Arcade. That's cinema and arcade mashed together. That is what we're doing. We are watching movies and then playing the video games based on those movies to see how they compare, contrast, improve, detract, all the different ways that you can interact with it. It gives us a great opportunity to talk about a huge breadth of movies, everything from Grease to Avatar to everything in between. It's a really wild scope of things we get to cover. I think around this time, when this episode drops, we'll be in the midst of our Halloween season. So it's all horror movies for the entire month of October, which always makes me happy. We're talking From Dusk Till Dawn. We're talking about World War Z. And of course, we're going to be talking about the classic 1978 Halloween. So definitely going to want to check those out. And be sure to check us out this week. Our episode coming up, as we announced last week, is going to be on Catacombs from 1988, an old maybe lost movie. We're going to do our damnedest to find it. It's certainly been hard to locate. It's not streaming anywhere legally, but I think we might have to go through some back channels to find it.
Yeah, we alluded to it in the bumper last time for it, that it's out there, but we're going to have to do some work to find it. It's not Pulse Pounders lost, but it's there. We'll find it, and we will talk about it with a fun guest, and we will bring it to you next week. So we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program with Catacombs on Friday. Thank you again to Debbie Rochon for taking the time to come on and have this incredible conversation with us. You're so generous with your time and gracious with your stories, and we appreciated it. And I'm sure everybody who's listening appreciates it. So thank you so much. And hopefully, this is a relationship that we can continue moving on into the future.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. Forever Full Moon.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
so cool to meet you.
That's a good place to end. I can't upstage that.